Cases of illegal storage, excavation of minerals in Chhattisgarh 7,000, more than 7,000 cases of illegal excavation. Cost of rebuilding Ukraine's economy after Russia's invasion $524 billion. A new study by the World Bank, European Commission, and Ukrainian government found that housing, transport, energy, commerce, and education were most affected sectors. Amount of money Singapore citizens lost to scams last year $822 million. The share of GDP the UK aims to spend on defense in 2029 3%. Britain will aim to spend 3% of its GDP on defense in the next parliament due to begin in 2029. Tribal students who protested the living conditions in Odisha, over 100 tribal students of the state-run residential school in Odisha's Mayurbhanj walked the whole night to reach the district headquarters town in Baripada to protest the inhumane living conditions. Should a third language be compulsory? Why is the union government delaying funds under the Samagra Shiksha Scheme Abhiyan to Tamil Nadu? When was the three-language policy first introduced, and what did it mandate? What are the challenges in having extra language courses in government schools? There have been a tussle between the centre and the Tamil Nadu government over the three-language formula in the schools under the New Education Policy 2020. The union government has indicated that it needs to be complied with for release of funds tied to the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. However, the Tamil Nadu government views it as a smokescreen for Hindu imposition and insists that it would continue with its two-language policy. The constitution provides that Hindi is the official language of the Union. English was originally meant to continue as the official language for 15 years from the commencement of the constitution till 1965. However, the Official Languages Act 1963 provides for continued use of English in addition to Hindi for all official purposes of the Union without any time limit. The legislature, however, the Official Languages Act 1963 provides for continued use of English in addition to Hindi. Official Languages Act 1963 provides for continued use of English in addition to Hindi for all official purposes of the Union without any time limit. The legislature of a state may adopt any one or more of the languages in use or in the state or Hindi as the official languages for the official purposes of that state. Further, the Constitution provides that it shall be the duty of the Union to promote the spread of Hindi language so that it may serve as a medium of expression for all elements of the composite culture of India. The three language formula was first introduced in the NEP of 1968. This policy and the Official Language Resolution 1968 mandated the teaching of Hindi as a language in non-Hindi speaking states. There were protests against the same in Tamil Nadu, and it was steadfastly followed its two-language policy of teaching Tamil and English in its government schools. The NEP 2020 has retained the three-language formula, albeit with a key difference that it does not impose any language on any state. It specifies that the languages to be learned will be the choice of states, regions, and the students, so as long as at least two of the three languages are native to India. The annual Status of Education Research (ASER) conducted regularly by renowned NGO Pratham leaves much to be improved upon with respect to learning abilities. The report of 2022 indicates that close to 60% of the students in class 5 could not read a class 2 level text. The report of 2023 reveals that 25% of the youth in age group 14 to 18 years could not read a class 2 level text fluently in their regional language. More than 40% of this age group could not read sentences in English. The learning outcomes of foundational numeracy skills like subtraction and division is equally poor. The three language policy was first introduced in the NEP of 1968. And the policy and the official language resolution 1968 mandated teaching of Hindi as the language in non-Hindi speaking states. There were protests against the same in Tamil Nadu, and it steadfastly followed its two language policy of teaching Tamil and English. The NEP 2020 has retained three language formula, albeit with a key difference that it doesn't impose any language on any state. As per the report on analysis of budgeted expenditure on education prepared by the Ministry of Education, Government of India in 2022, out of total revenue expenditure on elementary education estimated at 3.3033 lakh crore, 15% is spent by the center while 85% is spent by the states. The total expenditure on elementary, secondary, and higher and technical education by center and state combines hovers around 4 to 4.5% of the GDP, as against the target 6% set up by the NEP 2020. Thus, the expenditure on education is yet to reach the desired levels. While English is not native language, its proficiency has helped us in becoming globally competitive in various service industries. India is multilingual country, and the objective of learning more Indian languages in schools is desirable. However, the existing issues of learning outcomes coupled with constraints on resources require that the efforts of government run schools should be focused on improving the teaching and mother tongue, local language, and English apart from foundational numeracy skills. Even in private schools, when a third language is taught till standard 8, there is a limited proficiency being attained by the students in such language. The 2011 census data reveals that approximately 26% of the bilingual 26% of India is bilingual and 7% trilingual. Corresponding figures for urban areas is 44% and 15%, as against 22% and 5% for rural areas. With rapid urbanization and migration of laborers across the country, this number is bound to increase in the forthcoming census, indicating that the young and adult population would learn additional languages according to their needs. There must be a constructive dialogue between the center and the Tamil Nadu government to ensure that funding is not delayed. Considering the share of expenditure borne by the states as well as regional diversities, there also needs to be a productive discussion on providing more autonomy to the states in policy matters relating to school education. Census data states that 26% of India is bilingual and 7% trilingual. Corresponding figures are 14%, 15% as against 22% and 5% for rural areas. With rapid urbanization and migration, this number is bound to increase. While English is not native languages, language proficiency has helped us in becoming globally competitive. However, existing issues of learning outcomes coupled with constraints on resources require efforts of government-run schools be focused on improving teaching of the mother tongue local language and English apart from foundational numeracy skills. Even in private schools where third language is taught till standard 8, there is limited proficiency being attained by the students in such language. The three language formula was first introduced in the NEP of 1968. Policy and official language resolution mandate the teaching of Hindi as a language in non-Hindi speaking states. The ASER report of 2022 indicates that close to 60% of the students in class 5 could not read a class 2 level text. The report of 2023 reveals that 25% of youth in the age group 14 to 18 years could not read a class 2 level text fluently in their regional language. The 2011 census data reveals that approximately 26% of India is bilingual and 7% is trilingual. Corresponding figures for urban areas are 44% and 15% as against 22% and 5% for rural areas. What did the High Court rule about arresting women at night? Is the provision which restricts arrest of women after sunset or before sunrise absolute? What did the 135th report of the Law Commission on India on women in custody recommend? The Madurai bench of the Madras High Court in Deepa versus S. Vijayalakshmi and others ruled that legal provision in the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, which restricts arrest of women after sunset and before sunrise, is directory, not mandatory. In the case of women arrested at 8 p.m., a single judge of the High Court held that arrest was in breach of the Section 46(4) of the CRPC. However, two judgments of the High Court in an appeal held that Section 46(4) of the CRPC was directory, not mandatory. Two safeguards are provided under Section 43 Class 5 of the PNSS, which corresponds to Section 46(4) of the CRPC for the arrest of a woman by the police. First, no arrest of a woman shall be made after sunset and before sunrise except in exceptional circumstances. Second, even in exceptional circumstances, the prior permission of the judicial magistrate must be sought by a women police officer by making a written report. Section 46(4) of the CRPC is beneficial provision incorporated to ensure safety of women. However, the provision does not explain what would constitute an exceptional situation. In addition, the provision of Section 46(1) states that arresting police officers should not touch the person of the women unless it is a women police officer if the circumstances otherwise require it. The Madras High Court says the section 46(4) of CRPC does not spell out a consequence of non-compliance of the provision. If the provision was intended to be mandatory, the legislature would definitely have provided for consequences of non-compliance. A police officer who effects arrest carries out public duty. Court underlined that there could be a situation where heinous offence is committed by a woman in the night and magistrate may not be available for obtaining permission. Under such condition, accused women may escape. Therefore, such mechanical adherence to procedure can injure public interest. The 105th Report on Law Commission of India on Women in Custody 1989 recommended that ordinarily no women shall be arrested after sunset and before sunrise. If there are exceptional cases, prior permission of the immediate superior officer shall be obtained, or if the case was of extreme urgency, there an arrest report with reasons shall be made to the immediate superior officer to the magistrate. Similar recommendations were made in 154th Report of Law Commission in 96. In a case, the Nagpur bench of the Bombay High Court directed the state to issue directions to all police officials that no female person shall be detained without a presence of a lady constable and in no case after sunset and before sunrise. Here, the Supreme Court observed that a strict compliance with the state directive in a given circumstance would cause practical difficulties. The court has clearly said that despite the court has clearly said that despite holding Section 46(4) of CRPC, 43(5) of BNSS as directory and not mandatory, the provision cannot be rendered futile by the police. While failure to adhere to statutory requirement may not lead to arrest, being declared illegal, the officer may have to offer explanation for incapability to comply with the provision. Court also directed the police to issue guidelines clarifying as to what constitute exceptional circumstances. The Madurai bench of the Madras High Court ruled the legal provision in Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita which restricts the arrest of women after sunset and before sunrise is directory, not mandatory. 135th Report of the Law Commission of India on Women in Custody 1989 recommended that ordinarily no women shall be arrested after sunset and before sunrise. The court has clearly said that despite holding Section 46(4) of CRPC as directory and not mandatory, the provision cannot be rendered futile by the police. How political consultancies are rewriting Indian elections. While the impact of political consultancy firms on our politics remains to remain murky, there are disturbing indicators of how they can deinstitutionalize political parties in the name of business. The New Delhi elections bore witness to an intense battle of narratives, with the Bharatiya Janata Party promising double engine sarkar to voters while battling the Aam Aadmi Party for its failure in governance and its myriad corruption scandals. While the AAP attempted to reframe the discourse to welfare and the center state conflict, it nonetheless resulted in a rout for the party. The writers of these narratives, however, were not named on constituency tickets but worked in the background to prepare, package, and professionalize the parties in fray. India's tryst with political consultancy firms has been well documented. It started with Viplav Communications, founded in 2003, assisting a newer generation of MPs with their campaigns. It rose to prominence by strategizing the Naveen Patnaik's led Biju Janata Dal campaign in Odisha assembly elections. Distinct marker was use of novelties such as super caller, which enabled them to reach hundreds and thousands of voters daily with pre-recorded messages. Since then, an outcrop of firms including the Populous Empowerment Network, PEN, Showtime Consulting, and JPSC Persona have consolidated their positions as important stakeholders in Indian elections. They have been hired by parties like the BJP and the Congress, as well as regional parties like the Trinamool Congress and DMK. The rise of political consultancy firms represents an increasing Americanization of Indian election campaigns. These firms work in a war room like settings with professionals from IITs, IIMs, and NLUs. They focus on data collections through voter surveys, social medias, and micro targeted campaigns. Consultancy firms' ability to introduce sophisticated campaign technologies enable parties to shift from traditional ground level mobilization to track driven voter engagement. Traditional Indian elections were party driven, with political ideologies and grassroots mobilization playing a dominant role. However, there is a trend towards personality centric campaigns where individual leaders overshadow their parties. The nature of political campaign has also evolved into a more permanent and continuous process. Political leaders and parties remain in a perpetual state of campaigning. The increased reliance on television and digital media has further reinforced the role of political consultants. As political consultancy firms continue to gain foothold in Indian politics, their consolidation also reflects a deeper institutional problem within India's political parties. In democracy, political parties serve as an intermediary between state and the people and perform multiple functions by doing so. They mobilize electorate by engaging citizens, understanding the issues which affect them, articulating them through the manifesto and policy solutions. However, functioning of political parties is plagued by numerous problems. There are concentration of power within its top leadership, especially regional parties such as Trinamool Congress, Nationalist Congress Party, Samajwadi Party, which resemble single family outfits and are controlled by the satraps. Decisions on aspects ranging from the nomination of candidates to deciding the basic stance reflect the diktats of the top leadership, with party cadres increasingly being unheard, underfunded, and unorganized. Political parties became uninstitutionally weak. While the involvement of consultants could boost electoral prospects of the party, its latent effects necessitate further scrutiny. With the increasing involvement of political consultancy firms within party structure, concerns have also emerged about unelected individuals exerting disproportionate influence over decisions that should solely be with democratically elected representatives. In the case of Trinamool Congress, IPAC collaboration in West Bengal, there were allegations that the consultancy firm wielded significant influence over ticket distribution, selection of key poll issues, and even governance after party had come to power. It raises important questions about accountability of these firms in democracy and extent of their impact on political parties. By outsourcing such functions to politically neutral or agnostic professionals who focus solely on process of campaigning itself, the ideological platform of a party becomes second fiddle. Politics is deeply ideological, tumultuous, and contradictory, but not an inconvenience to be bypassed. When these aspects of electioneering are outsourced to a firm, it weakens the link between political party and the voters. While the political consultancy firms on our politics continues to remain murky, there are disturbing indicators on how they can deinstitutionalize political parties in the name of business. The clientele of these firms' political parties must grapple with reality rather than shying away from it. For the long term, parties need to go back to the drawing board and revisit their founding principles. The year in which India and Pakistan faced off for the World Cup for the first time, 92, Virat Kohli scored a century on Sunday, making it his 51st ODI turn. Here is a quiz on some of his milestones. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.